On today's episode of The Franchise, May 16th, we're going to preview the Western Conference Finals between the Lakers and the Denver Nuggets, as well as Doc Rivers is the newest head coach to get fired. And once again, I don't think it was the right decision to fire Doc Rivers. The NBA Draft Lottery is tonight. We're going to take a look at what teams have the best chance to get the number one overall pick and secure Victor Wembanyama. And I'm going to rank every single starting quarterback in the NFL. There's about 36, 37 guys on this list. We're going to go through a good majority of them in depth here today. Before we get into the episode, though, you can watch or listen to The Franchise on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. You can find additional content on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. All of those are in the description of the episode. Go there and find it. All right, let's start here. Doc Rivers was fired by the 76ers today. In 3 seasons with Philadelphia, 154 wins, 82 losses as head coach. Made it to the second round of the playoffs each of the 3 seasons, had a winning record each of the 3 seasons with the Sixers. Never able to get past the second round of the playoffs. And that's not just been the story for Doc Rivers. It's been the story for Joel Embiid, for the 76ers with this era of having Embiid on the squad. They have not been able to get past the second round of the playoffs. And Rivers joins Budenholzer, Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, as coaches who have been fired, who have had tons of success over the last 3 to 4 seasons in the NBA. I think this Doc Rivers fire, though, is probably the most understandable, right? I don't think he should have been fired. I think you give Doc Rivers another year. I think, look, he's been a championship head coach. He's had 12 straight winning seasons as a head coach. I know he's horrible in game sevens. He's blown many leads. He's, been a very inconsistent coach in big time playoff moments, but I still think he's one of the best coaches in the NBA. But he might not be the right guy for this team, right, for Philadelphia. And if you don't think he's the right guy, if you don't think he can elevate your franchise to a finals contender, which Philadelphia is not right now, then you don't wait another season and waste another year of Embiid and then potentially have him, potentially run the risk of him requesting a trade. I just think, once again, I said this yesterday with the Monty Williams firing. The head coach in sports, in any sport, MLB, NBA, NFL, college, any sport, the head coach, the manager, it is the easiest position to scapegoat, right? If the team is not having success, you can easily blame it on the manager because that is the most replaceable position in a team. It is the most replaceable position. It really is. And if all goes well, then you praise the coach and you give the coach an extension and you keep him around. But look, Philly, they had a Doc was great with them, right? 154 wins, 82 losses, made the playoffs each season. I just think they are looking for a coach to elevate them. And I think there's some guys who have been fired over the last few weeks that make sense. Monty Williams, Budenholzer, Frank Vogel. But also, I think they are a team that could give a chance on a guy who hasn't yet necessarily either coached in a while or has yet to be a head coach. Kenny Atkinson, Warriors assistant, former head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, definitely could be a possibility. But also, like I said yesterday, they have to keep in mind, and the priority for them this offseason should be James Harden. What do you do with him? Do you bring him back or not? Because if he leaves, you have no cap space. You have $12 million in the mid-level exception to bring in a guy to help elevate this team. And losing James Harden does not elevate this team. And it completely hurts this team and kind of takes them out of a team that's a top Eastern Conference team without James Harden. So Doc Rivers fired. I understand it. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I do think it is the most understandable head coach to be fired so far this offseason. All right, how about Shohei Ohtani yesterday? Ohtani gets a start on the mound against the Orioles. As we all know, he pitches, he hits. He also pitches and hits in games where he pitches. Like, he does both in the same game. So last night on the mound against the Orioles, 7 innings pitched, 5 strikeouts, allowed 5 runs. He got the win. But how about what he did at the plate in the same game that he pitched? He went 4 for 5, 2 singles, a triple, a homer, 3 RBIs, 1 walk. He was a double shy of the cycle. He hit a 456-foot home run out of Camden Yards. This ball went out of the ballpark. So that is a historic performance. I mean, if he hit for the cycle, I didn't look it up, but there's no way there's been another player that's pitched in the same game, got the win, and hit for the cycle in the same game, pitching and hitting. I'm working on an article on a thing right now. Shohei Ohtani potential trade. Hopefully getting that out next week, maybe. All right. Let's do Western Conference Finals preview. This episode is going a little quick here. We're only 6 minutes in. Western Conference Finals tonight between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Denver Nuggets. Game 1 tonight in Denver. Denver's favored by 6 points in this game. We're going to preview the series, right? I didn't expect the Lakers to make it this far. I thought they would have lost in the second round to the Warriors. That's what I predicted before the playoffs even started. I thought they'd beat the Grizzlies, and then I thought they'd lose to the Warriors. But now they're here. Western Conference Finals rematch from 2020 in the bubble against this Nuggets team. Last time in the Western Conference Finals, the Lakers beat them. I think it was in 5 or 6 games. The Lakers played great. That team, these two teams were completely different, right? This Nuggets team is a whole lot better now than they were 3 years ago. I think one of the biggest matchups in this series is going to be the Anthony Davis versus Nikola Jokic battle, right? These two teams are led by their big men. I mean, the two best players on these teams are Anthony Davis and Nikola Jokic, right? LeBron is, at this point, in the way he's been playing in the postseason, he's not the best player on the Lakers. He's the second best player. He's still one of the best players in the world and on the floor. But this Lakers team runs through Anthony Davis offensively. And same thing with the Denver Nuggets. The way Jokic has been playing this postseason, I know the NBA MVP is a regular season award, but Jokic should have 3 straight MVPs. He's so dominant on every single aspect of the game: playmaking, scoring, rebounding, defense, basketball IQ. He is such a dominant player on the floor, and he's so efficient too. I mean, he is one of the most efficient players in the league. But this matchup between these two guys is going to be very interesting because, look, in 2020 Western Conference Finals, you had a bunch of big men for the Lakers that were able to defend Nikola Jokic. You had Dwight Howard, you had JaVale McGee, you had Anthony Davis. Now for the Lakers, you are running Anthony Davis, right? Mo Bamba is not getting playoff minutes. Tristan Thompson does not deserve playoff minutes. Wenyen Gabriel should not be out there at all, right? It is Anthony Davis solely guarding Nikola Jokic when he's on the floor. And AD, one of the best defensive players in the league and in this postseason in the paint. If you try to challenge Anthony Davis in the paint, you are going to have a very tough time being successful because he has been blocking shots, getting rebounds, and just being a nice physical presence in the paint for the Lakers. So when it comes to this series, Anthony Davis is the most important player, right, in this series. Anthony Davis' offensive and defensive success determines if the Lakers will win or lose this series. For this game tonight, I'm going to say that the Nuggets win game 1 at home, right? I think the Nuggets will take game 1 at home. But the Lakers need to win one of these first 2 games at home. They need to win game 1 tonight or they need to win game 2 on Thursday. If the Lakers go down 2-0, going back to LA, I know they haven't lost a single game yet this postseason at Crypto Arena. If they go down 2-0, I think this series is over. The Lakers need to steal one of these games in Denver to have a nice, true to have really nice momentum going back to Los Angeles and really put Denver in a spot where they really have to be concerned, right? Because the Lakers at home are unbeatable. So if you can steal one of these two games, or if you can steal two or just one of these games in Denver on the road, it really sets a tone nicely for this series for the Lakers. I do think Nuggets will win tonight. For the series, who do I think will win this series? I'm going to say the Lakers win this series. I'll say they win it in 6 games. I think the Lakers in 6. Like it's been all postseason long. Lakers in 6 going to the finals. All right, finally on today's episode. Over the last week or two, I ranked AFC quarterbacks, ranked NFC quarterbacks. Now I'm going to rank every single quarterback in the NFL, starting wise, not backups. I'm not going to go that deep. That would take forever. But yeah, we're at the point in the NFL calendar, training camp, not too long away. I think they're in off-season mini camp right now. We're going to start ranking players, quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, corners, safeties, defensive linemen, head coaches. We're going to start ranking players, top 10s, top 15s, top 20s. This one is a top 30-something quarterbacks in the NFL. We're going to start from the top. All right, the number one quarterback in the NFL, undebatably, is Patrick Mahomes. 2-time Super Bowl champion, reigning Super Bowl champion, reigning MVP, 5 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, 11-3 playoff record in his career. Last season, 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, completed 67% of his passes. It is a no-brainer. Without question, unanimously, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback and best player in the NFL. Now, the rest of this list is definitely up for grabs. I mean, you can put any guy. I could understand if you want to put one of these other quarterbacks at 2, or if you want to put a quarterback lower or higher. But for me, number 2 is Joe Burrow. Last season, 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, a 68 completion percentage. He's made it to back-to-back AFC championship games, winning one, losing the other. He's made a Pro Bowl, made a Super Bowl, and he has a 5-2 playoff record. I think he's the second best quarterback in the NFL, and he's the second best. He's outside of Mahomes. He's probably one of the only guys in a big moment, late in a game. You're down a score. You need a touchdown. You need big plays. That you want the ball in Joe Burrow's hands, because you've seen it time and time out throughout his career. I mean, even dating back to college at LSU, he is able in these big time moments when the team needs him most to make big time plays and ultimately close out games with W's. So Burrow is number 2. Number 3 is Josh Allen, and I understand if you want to flip them around, but I think Burrow has cemented himself past Josh Allen based off of the fact that he's made it to back-to-back AFC championship games. He beat Josh Allen last season in the divisional round on the road in Buffalo. Joe Burrow took down Josh Allen. And Josh Allen made one AFC championship game, has lost that. Besides that, hasn't made it past the second round of the playoffs. He's still a great player, right? Third best quarterback in the NFL. I would gladly take him if I was starting my franchise. Last season, 4,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. He's made 2 Pro Bowls. He's 4-4 in his career in the postseason, though. I think the only thing for him is getting too risky with the football. We saw it a lot last year, forcing things, turning over the football. I think this next season, though, Josh Allen's going to be great. I think he's definitely has a potential to win an MVP. And we'll see if the Buffalo Bills can get over the hump, make it to another AFC championship, and hopefully, exceed that and make it to a Super Bowl. Number 4, this one you could put tons of guys here. You could put Lamar, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers. I went with Jalen Hurts. At number 4. 3,701 yards passing last season with 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 760 rushing yards, and 13 touchdowns via the ground as well. Obviously made it to the Super Bowl last season, finished second place in MVP voting last year. I mean, last season was such a breakout year for Jalen Hurts. And I don't think it's just a byproduct of him being in a team that has the best roster surrounding a guy in the NFL. It's not just because he has the best O-line and some of the best receivers, great tight end, great running game, great coaching, a great defense on the other side of the ball. It's not just all because of that. You have to have a guy in that system that's capable of showing up in big moments. And Jalen Hurts has done that last season in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, in the regular season. He has shown up, and he's been one of the best players in the NFL. And I have him as my fourth best quarterback. All right, number 5 is Lamar Jackson. This one might be a little high. I think you could put Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers. Those guys definitely could be in the conversation to be at this number 5 spot. But for me, Lamar is one of the league MVP. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. His playoff record is 1-3. The reason I have him above Herbert, though, is because of his playoff success. He has won a playoff game. He has won an MVP. He has more accolades to show for what he's done than Justin Herbert. Last season, Lamar, not playing a full season, 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 764 rushing yards, and 8 touchdowns rushing as well. Lamar signing a big-time deal with new receivers in OBJ, Zay Flowers. I think the Ravens and Lamar are going to have a great season this year if Lamar stays healthy, and I think all of the talent is there for him, and he's number 5. Number 6 is Justin Herbert, 1-time Pro Bowler, Rookie of the Year. Last season, 4,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 68 completion percentage. He's 0-1 in the playoffs, obviously losing to the Jaguars at home. On the road. On the road last season. Big time collapse for the Chargers. The problem with the Chargers has not been Justin Herbert. It has been coaching, clock management, and just how they have been playing in the end of these games where they have the potential to win them. Herbert, though, the lack of playoff games and success, keeps him at 6. He's still a top 6 quarterback in the NFL. Number 7 is Aaron Rodgers. The reason I have Herbert above Rodgers is because Herbert is younger. Herbert, I think, has potential to grow right now. Rodgers, 39, contemplated retirement over the last 3 seasons of his career. But going to the Jets with a nice offensive line, great receivers. Garrett Wilson is one of the best receivers in the NFL. Breece Hall is one of the best backs in the NFL. I think Rodgers is going to have an amazing year with the Jets this season. 10-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, a 4-time MVP, a Super Bowl champion, and a Super Bowl MVP. 12-10 playoff record. Last season, 3,600 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. What is it? Number 8. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson here at number 8. In 6 games last year, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. Very low completion percentage, sitting at a 58. 3-time Pro Bowler. But the last full season he played in 2020, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, completed 70% of his passes. Deshaun Watson has all of the talent in the world. And I think this year, full season with the Browns, he's going to be absolutely incredible for them this season. Obviously, last year, small sample size, did not play good, but he also didn't play in a full season. So this year with the Browns, great running game, a nice offensive line. Obviously Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper. I think Deshaun Watson will go back to what he was in 2020, 2019, early on in his career, being one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Number 9. It's going to be Matthew Stafford. Didn't play a whole lot last season. Went through an elbow injury, but 2,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks, 68 completion percentage. But in 2022, when they won the Super Bowl, first year with the Rams, 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions for Matthew Stafford. Obviously a Super Bowl champion. I think this season, coming in 2023, the Rams were horrible last season. I think they'll be a whole lot better. I think Stafford is going to be a big part of that. I think him being healthy, hopefully this season, leads to the Rams' success. They still have Sean McVay, one of the best coaches. Cooper Kupp will be coming back. And I think Stafford is going to be a huge part of that. I mean, we saw it for a full season healthy for Stafford under this Rams team, took them all the way to the Super Bowl. I'd expect them this season with him healthy to be one of the best teams in the NFC. And then rounding out the top 10 is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Last season was a breakout year for him and only his second year in the NFL. He's a Pro Bowler, won a playoff game last season, almost took down the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead Stadium last season. 4,000 yards, 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, 66 completion percentage for Lawrence last year. I think he's only going to get better. They're adding Calvin Ridley that they traded for last season to be his number one receiver to go with Christian Kirk, who's going to slide over to the 2. Evan Ingram, added Anton Harrison from Oklahoma in the draft. They also have Travis Etienne. This Jaguars team in easily the worst division in the NFL. I think Lawrence is going to continue to improve. And he's going to, I think at some point he will enter the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL and he will win an MVP at some point in his career. All right, 11 is Jared Goff. I think Goff is severely underrated, right? He's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's made it to a Super Bowl. He's 3-3 in his playoff career. 4,438 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 picks last season, completing 65% of his passes on a Lions team that this year has a lot of expectations to go out there and win the division, potentially win some playoff games, and be one of the top 3-4 teams in the NFC. I think Jared Goff is definitely the quarterback capable of leading this Lions team to success. Look, he's made it to a Super Bowl, and you can argue that the defense carried him to that Super Bowl. But that season where he made that Super Bowl, he was stellar. I mean, look at that Monday Night Football game between him, the Rams, and the Kansas City Chiefs, where you had a combined total of over 100 and something points. One of the greatest football games of all time, right? Jared Goff is capable of making big-time throws and being a big-time quarterback in big-time moments. And he, for me, is at number 11, and he can definitely crack the top 10 by season's end. So Jared Goff, number 11. Number 12 is a definite, this one's very surprising to a lot of people. I would not be surprised if this one's a controversial take. How about Brock Purdy? Only 5 games started in the regular season last year for Purdy. 1,300 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 67% of his passes completed, 5-0 record in the regular season, 2-1 in the playoffs, took the Niners to the NFC Championship game. And I think if he was healthy in that game against the Eagles, it's a completely different game. And I'm not saying that they would have won it, but it would have been a lot closer. And I think the 49ers and Brock Purdy would have actually had a chance to win that game. Look, I think Purdy is the perfect quarterback for this Niners team. And will he be healthy to start the season? Who knows, right? Had to get Tommy John surgery. I think he's the best quarterback on the Niners roster. I think he's better than Trey Lance. We haven't seen anything of Trey Lance. Yes, he's only played like 2 NFL games in his career. Sam Darnold, I don't think Purdy is better than Darnold. I think Purdy completely fits this Niners system and Kyle Shanahan's offense. He fits having CMC in the backfield, Kittle, Debo, Brandon Ayuk. The offensive line for the Niners is amazing. It all is there for Brock Purdy to be successful and for any quarterback to be successful. And I know Purdy is the only one we've seen the most of out of the 3 guys currently on roster on the 49ers team. But I think he's the best one. I think he's better than all of the quarterbacks I'm about to list based off of the sample size we've seen. And I know it's only an 8-game sample size for Purdy, but I think those 8 games really showed how much talent this guy has and how much dog is inside of Brock Purdy. 13 is Dak Prescott, 2,800 yards, 23 touchdowns, 15 interceptions last season, 2-4 in his career in the postseason, 2-time Pro Bowler. Dak Prescott's good. I really think he's a good player. I don't know if he's going to ever be capable of leading a team to a Super Bowl. I just don't think he is. I definitely think with all luck, he can take the Cowboys to an NFC Championship appearance. But taking and winning a Super Bowl, I don't know if Dak Prescott is the quarterback to do that for the Cowboys. 14 is Kyler Murray. Obviously, he tore his ACL last season, so only played in a few games, 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2021, 3,787 yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks. completed 69% of his passes, owned 1 career playoff record. I think when Kyler Murray comes back this season, whenever that is, probably towards the end of the year, I don't really think we need to look at what he does this year. I think next season, which will end up being the 2024-25 NFL season, when the Cardinals most likely have 2 top 10 first round picks, I think that's when Kyler Murray, if he's still a member of the Cardinals, is when he truly breaks out, having more talent around him. But he's still a talented quarterback. I just think he hasn't been in positions to succeed so far in his career. All right, 15, Geno Smith of the Seahawks, 4,200 yards last season, 30 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completed 69% of his passes, 0-1 career playoff record. Geno Smith basically signed a 1-year deal extension with the Seahawks in the offseason. Surprising that they didn't draft a quarterback. The only thing for Geno, and I've been saying this for a while now, is will he be able to replicate the season he had last season to this season? I mean, we've only seen it once in his career where he's had a season like this. Every other year of his career, he hasn't been a great quarterback. So I think Geno, I mean, look, the Seahawks are set up perfectly for him to succeed. Jackson Smith-Njigba, they drafted DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, great receiving core right there. And then Kenneth Walker at your running back position. This Seahawks team is in position to succeed. I think Geno Smith, he's a great quarterback. I think he's definitely capable of leading a team to the postseason and potentially winning playoff games. But then again, he's only on a 1-year deal. We haven't seen it much in his career outside of just last season. So who knows what you're going to get out of Geno Smith this season. 16 is the guy Geno Smith is replaced, and that's Russell Wilson. The 9-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion with a 9-7 playoff record, struggled last season, obviously in Denver, winning only 5 games, 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, completed 60% of his passes. I think this year for Russell Wilson and Denver, they're going to improve. Sean Payton, new head coach. I think he fits what Russell Wilson, I think he's going to make Russell Wilson a better quarterback. But also there's the potential that we have seen the end of Russell Wilson's greatness, and it only spirals downhill from here. 17, Kirk Cousins, 1-4 playoff record, 4-time Pro Bowler, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions last season in Minnesota. I expect the Vikings to regress heavily this season. They had a lot of wins a lot of their wins were only 1-score games. Their defense is horrible. But for Kirk Cousins in particular, look, 17, middle of the pack quarterback. You're going to be able to win games with him. You're going to be able to potentially make postseasons with him, but you're not going to win playoff games with him. He's not going to get you over the hump. He's not a quarterback that's going to elevate the ceiling of your team. He's only going to move the floor higher and higher. Tua sits at 18. I think Tua is a guy that has talent to be top 15, top 12. It's just a matter of him staying healthy. When he was healthy last year, he was great. 25 touchdowns, 8 picks, 64% of his passes were completed. Like I said, if he can stay healthy and on the field, the pieces are there for him to succeed. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Gesicki, everyone is in place there for the Dolphins to have Tua become a successful quarterback. Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones is at 19, 1-1 in his playoff career, 3,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, passing 708 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns rushing as well. Not a big fan of Daniel Jones. I think that contract the Giants gave him was a desperation deal. Look, if you don't give Daniel Jones that deal and he leaves, you don't have a quarterback, and you just made the postseason for the first time in so many years for the Giants. So they had to do this deal. I don't like Daniel Jones. I don't think, look, he won a playoff game. It was against the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings are one of the worst teams. Their defense was horrible last season. A lot of their games were 1-score wins. I just don't think the Vikings were a real team last season. And I don't think this Giants team is going to have the same success they did last season in 2023. I think they'll miss the playoffs completely just because I don't think Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is at 20, the Raiders quarterback, 2-time Super Bowl champion. None of those he really won. That was all Tom Brady, 5-2 playoff record. 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions last season. He's a guy that is capable with the right roster around him of taking you to a Super Bowl. He did it with the Niners. This Raiders team, I think, is going to be a whole lot better. This Raiders squad should be really, really good, right? Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, added Michael Mayer at the tight end, Josh Jacobs, NFL rushing leader last season. So I think Jimmy G is going to have tons of success here in Vegas with the Raiders. All right, running through the rest here. Derek Carr sits at 21. Justin Fields at 22. Kenny Pickett, 23. Mac Jones at 24. Ryan Tannehill, 25. Jordan Love is at 26. 27, Jacoby Brissett. 28 is Andy Dalton. 29, Baker Mayfield. 30 is Desmond Ridder. 31 is Sam Howell. And then the rookie quarterbacks, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, are all pretty much tied for last because they haven't played a single game in the NFL yet. So that is my NFL quarterback rankings in terms of starters. Once we see some of these guys play this season, I mean, it's going to change, obviously. We're going to continue to work around the football field, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, pass rushers, corners, safeties. All of those will come in the coming weeks. But that will do it for this episode of the franchise. Going to be back on Wednesday, recapping the Western Conference Finals, previewing the Eastern Conference Finals, the draft, lottery, and most likely top wide receivers. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and I'll see you guys later.